Hey there, soon-be weds. Today we're going to talk about setting a wedding date. Hello and welcome to the RedBird Report. My name is Gretchen Garrett from RedBird Events, and today we're going to talk about finding the perfect wedding date. So the first question you want to ask yourself is, what is our ideal wedding date? Some people will have a date in mind already, and that's usually because of work concerns. For instance, teachers often like to get married in the summer. If you're in a graduate program, that's really going to determine when you have the time to get married. But for a lot of people, the question is not really so easily answered. So if you need some help getting started, there are some tips for you. The first thing to think about would be when you want to get married for certain sentimental reasons. For instance, if you have always dreamed of being a December bride like your mother, or maybe you and your fiance got together in April, and so you want to have your wedding date in April as well and have your wedding anniversary be in April. Those are great reasons to have a wedding date at a particular time of year. If you don't have anything in particular as far as sentiment goes, then you may want to think about the climate or the weather at that time. You can go to this website right here, and it will take you to a great page where you can check out for your location and for any particular date what the historical weather trends have been. And that'll tell you what the average high and low is, what the average high and low was last year, rainfall, and it's also going to let you know about sunrise and sunset times on that day. And this is going to be particularly important if you want to have your wedding ceremony outdoors, because we don't want your wedding guests to be freezing, melting, or having to make their way in the dark. And it's also going to help you figure out what time of day you can set your ceremony. You know, if you've always dreamed of getting married at 5 or 6 p.m., a little later in the evening, but the sun's already down at that point, you're not going to be able to have an outdoor ceremony. So that website may be something for you to check out. So another thing to think about would be the color palette or the overall feeling of the time of year that you're getting married. Flowers are a huge part of that, and they're a big part of the wedding for a lot of people. There is a reason that we think of Easter colors as being pastels. It's because the florals during that time are going to be a lot of lavender, bright yellow, robin's eggs, around that time, robin's eggs blue. So pastels are good for spring. In the summer, you get into bright, bold colors. And then in the fall, you've got really deep, rich tones. Mums, if you think about mums, they come in all sorts of great colors like red, purple, orange, yellow. Those are going to be your fall tones. And I would advise you to stick with whatever florals are in season. And that's for two reasons. The first is that it can actually save you some money. You can pretty much get anything any time of the year, but if it's coming from halfway around the planet, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. So it's going to cost you way more. And the other thing is, even though you're going to pay more, it's going to look worse because it's out of its natural growing season and you're not getting it at its best. The other thing regarding plants is not so much aesthetic as it is about your comfort. So if you're getting married at a time of year that there's pollen, you want to think about that. If either of you have a sensitivity to pollen, if your mom does, if your maid of honor does, if your wedding minister does, that is going to be a time of year that they're just sick. And if anyone then that is an integral part of the ceremony is feeling sick during that time of year, you don't want to have your wedding then. There's a difference between lovesick and, like sick. So have your wedding at a time of year that you are at your best and not when you're stuffed full of Claritin. The last thing you want to think about would maybe be what I like to call blackout dates, and those are dates that you want to avoid. So check with your family and your very closest friends if they have any days that they know in advance that they are just not available. So I'm talking about graduations, major surgeries, due dates for babies, retirement parties, any major work event that they already know they can't get out of. Maybe you have a wedding planner in your wedding. Maybe she's a close friend and her Saturdays are booked for a year out. So you may want to check with anybody that has that kind of a job and make sure that you know what days they are not available for the time of year you're thinking about. And while you're at it, check on major holidays too. People will come to your wedding if it's on Mother's Day. They will come to your wedding on Memorial Day weekend, but it's going to be a little bit of a pain, and they're not going to be as happy about it or maybe as available as they would be if you decided to have your wedding at another time. So keep that in mind. So now that you've got the time of year, you've thought about the implications for you from a sentimental standpoint, you've thought about whether everyone's going to be happy and healthy and whether everyone's going to be available, go find your venue. Call the ones you like and ask them if they have availability during the months that you have narrowed it down to, and go from there. Keep your mind open to Friday and Sunday weddings as well. Everybody wants a wedding on a Saturday pretty much, but besides the fact that some venues, not all, some venues will give you a discount, and people will travel regardless. Don't worry that people won't come to your wedding if it's a Friday or a Sunday. If they really love you, they will be there. So I think that about wraps it up. I wish you all a lot of love and success planning your wedding, and we'll see you next time. So you can check out this website. Check out this website.